Right, you got a section to read. How's the reading going? I'm not gonna get feedback from you guys anonymously, but just if you feel comfortable telling me how the read's going, it's pretty simple for you to do. Don't worry, yeah.
I did the rest. I did lesson 3 and lesson 4, and I get the main points of it. Like when I'm reading just the jargon and stuff, it's just
I feel like it's a lot of fluff or subtext material.
yeah.
Like that one for was it 1.3? Is that whichever one was talking about the analytics? Like if they would just given me like the description of each one of the analytics, I could stop there and solve the stuff. I like the
I don't think anybody's gonna be looking at my playlist outside of our class doll, and to be honest with you, and I have attention span problems, and so I had a problem reading at certain times of the day. So I get that. So hopefully in here, like I do the reading, I get kind of the understanding, and I can show you with real stuff what they're talking about. Somebody actually from the very first paper I got rejected said, good theorems come from good examples. So we need examples in our heads to kind of understand that, I think even before, which is, I think, one of the problems I'm going to go through with you from the book. The reason I'm going to go through it, even though it's going to be a slog in class, is because it'll show you kind of where everything fits together. So I'll warn you right now, I think it's boring. If I think it's boring, you might think it's boring too. You might be jazzed about business stuff, like I used to have business students at Montclair, and they love business. So here's the first part, the descriptive analytics. This is an example of a visualization of descriptive analytics. What this is there were over 1,000 people, about 1,600 people that took the survey. It was one of those surveys that you all love. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, fill in the bubbles. As a cadet, you'll be taking a ton of those, just warning you. But for me, as a quantitative researcher, I look at those kind of surveys and go, oh my God, 498 questions, 1,600 people that took this thing. Like the first thing I'm going to do is look at that and vomit, because I don't really know what to do with it. And so one of the things we did is we did a method called clustering. It's an algorithm that takes the data, you shove the data into an algorithm, and it groups up people in the way they responded. So these 4 colors, these are bad colors here, but there's 4 colors here. They grouped up into 4 different buckets. And what that's telling me is, even though there's over 1,600 people that answered this thing, they really boil down to 4 archetype responders, the way they answer this thing. And that's called clustering. And I've not done any prediction. I've only just described the data. So that's what descriptive analytics is. It takes a data set and collapses it in some way so I can understand it. Finding the average is an example. If I give you the average of something, average height at West Point, if I give you that, it's taking every cadet at West Point and then giving you an understanding of that data. If I told you the average height of cadets at West Point was 5'2". What would you think? You have a picture in your mind, right? Boy, there's a lot of short people at West Point. That's probably what you should think. If I told you the average weight at West Point was 250 pounds, right? I'm trying to shock you into understanding, it is a description of the data. It's not a prediction. It's a description of the data. So that's what descriptive analytics is. This is a little bit about that data. That's 468 questions. My stomach hurts sometimes when I look at stuff like this. I think the first time I got one of these things, because people in nutrition love to give surveys, they had 65 some questions, and there was a spreadsheet full of these answers. And the lady asked me, what can you do with this? Not much. I know how to handle it now, but at the moment I was like, ugh. I just wanted to show you a little bit about this. This was AI, so not additional instruction, but artificial intelligence. So I have to still, as a human, go in and understand what was in there. So they asked a lot of different kinds of questions. So this is just my analysis of that data, that these groups were different. For example, group 0 and group 2, we are the ones that love our Ben and Jerry's when we have a stressful moment. Group 1 and group 3 are not like that. I'm in group 0, I think, and I think my guitarist is in group 2, and I think my sister's in group. So I'm like looking through this and actually putting human judgment on these things. All right, predictive analysis. I just did a project with first last year on baseball, and it was putting quantifiers of when to pull the starting pitcher. So I don't know if you know now, but how many people in here are baseball fans? Baseball, I love baseball. So if you go into any MLB playing field now, they have all kinds of gadgets and doodads set up to collect information, pitch speeds, all kinds of stuff, not just about pitchers, but everything that you can imagine, videos, and they've all been collapsed and the data is publicly available through this thing called StatCast. Amazing amount of data, huge volumes of data that make that survey stuff look easy. This data is got all kinds of stuff, and then Lucas Volante was his name. He just graduated, but he took all that data, put it into spreadsheets so we can work with it. And then we did something called survival analysis because we wanted to know when to pull the starting pitcher, or do I go back and we say that's when the pitcher survived. The starting pitcher has to survive, so we can think of it like that. And what you're looking here is the survival probabilities over time by total number of pitches. And he grouped up these data into 4 pieces with the lowest bucket and the highest bucket of hit to strike ratio. So this is the pitcher's hit to strike ratios, how many hits they gave up divided by how many strikes they gave. What do you think? Should that number be high or low for the baseball fans? Gave up hits, bad. You probably want that to be low, right? Low number of hits, right? So that's what he's seeing, that the lower that number is, the higher the survival probability. So this is a prediction. I'm predicting for you based off this one metric how what's good and bad, basically. And also these ranges tell you, hey, I don't want to be in these areas here. I want to be in the blue. These ranges tell a manager when to pull the pitcher. If they're at the 50th pitch and they are in these ranges for hit to strike ratio, pull. So it's also a decision model. It can be used as a decision model. But this graph by itself is just prediction. All I'm doing is predicting their probability of survival based off a hit to strike ratio. That's most commonly what people think of when they think of mathematical models. They think of prediction.
What else would you use this for?
It's actually used in cancer research. I took it from I was doing a project with another student on diabetes. So, and I'm like, hey, I think we can use this in baseball. I got a great hockey project too. I like hockey. Any other questions on this? Is it making sense? Or is this also like the book? Am I like the book right now? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to ask you anonymously, and I want you to tell me. Otherwise, I can't improve. Prescriptive analysis. That's what we're doing in my NIH grant. Right now, there's something called the dietary guidelines, which I don't think most of you have heard about. How many of you have heard about MyPlate? Something about MyPlate? Okay, so they might teach that in schools. MyPlate is really one size fits all. So they're like telling you have to have these groupings of foods and etc. What we know is that's actually not true on the other end. So like things like the Mediterranean diet, it's supposed to be good for you. It's good on average. There are people who benefit even more than average, and there's also people that it's harmful for. And that goes for anything that's on any kind of food you give a person. So it really is based on that person. So what we're trying to do is collect enough data on 10,000 people, questionnaires, accelerometry, you got your Garmin watch, your Fitbit, whatever it is, that kind of data, microbiome, all kinds of data is coming at me. And we're trying to use that data to predict for what's going to be best for a person. And then after we get that data, we're going to generate, based off of your individual makeup, what is going to be the best diet, optimal diet for you. So it's kind of like the stuff we're doing in class. Optimal, we have a slider, like there's all these ranges of different foods, and there's something that slider does based on your constraints that's going to be best for you.
And we care about that in the Army because we want to optimize performance. So we actually have an objective function in the Army. So the Army cares a lot about this research. So that's prescriptive. I'm actually telling you what to do. If I'm using those ranges on the other slide that I gave you to make a decision, that's also prescriptive. Anything that's used to make a decision is prescriptive.